What's going on, guys? This is Chandler Smith, and today I'm going to be doing the second episode of a series of every investment that I've made. And the reason I'm doing this is so many people ask, all right, we know now you've got over 60 doors of buy and hold real estate, but how did you start? How did you know when it was okay to get into some of the bigger units? What was kind of the process you took in finding the deals? So I'm not only going to go through how I found the deals, kind of the ins and outs, the issues that I ran into, some of the mistakes that I made. We're gonna go through that with every purchase and every property that I've invested in. And last time I did it on my first investment, but I feel like this property is my first real investment because it's the first buy and hold property that I got and that I still own today. And so it's gonna be this condo here at the Brentwood condominium apartment complex. I just purchased one condo, and so I'm gonna go through some of the mistakes I made, but why I ended up getting comfortable enough to buy this property, and talk also about some of the pros and cons that come with investing in a condo, because it's something that I only did once, and a lot of times when people ask me, I tell them, hey, you wanna make sure you're doing it right because condos are a little bit different. So let's jump into it. So this is the complex where I bought the first actual condo. It's not this one, it's over here. We'll get there in a minute. But I wanted to talk about how I found the deal. Now, I had talked about how I was wanting to invest in real estate. I'd kind of put it out there, and I was looking all over. I had ran the deal that I talked about in my last video where I'd given a loan on a home, but I really wanted to get into a buy and hold investment. So I was constantly looking on Zillow, on Craigslist. I was going with a realtor to all these different properties, and I had a buddy that came to me and said, Chandler, look, I found this deal on this condo. Do you think it's a good investment? I know you've been looking into real estate. Tell me if it's a good deal. And he was kind of looking for himself. And so I looked at it and I was like, hey, if you get them down a little lower on the price, this could actually be a really good deal. He's like, well, that's cool. I've actually got a personal connection with them. I think it could be a good in. And so after he told me that, I said, well, hey, do you mind if I come and look at it? Now I went and looked at the condo and I fell in love. And obviously it was my buddy that was looking at it. So I said, hey man, I think it's a great option. Are you gonna pull the trigger on it? He's like, well, I don't really have any money. And so I was like, well, if you're not gonna do it, would you care if I kind of swooped it from you? He's like, yeah, go for it, man. I'm not gonna do it, so go crazy. So I ended up negotiating with the guy back and forth that he knew, and I got him down to $73,000. So I was able to get into a 2-bedroom condo for just $73,000. And because we didn't have a realtor involved, that gave me a lot of negotiating power because we just went to a title company and ended up closing on the deal. Now, I had no idea that that relationship I formed with the title company would be huge down the road for other deals, because I got a really good connection with one of the ladies that worked there, and I got comfortable filling out the paperwork and literally going through the whole process without a realtor. Now, this doesn't mean you shouldn't use a realtor. A lot of times they can be a great asset for more reasons than one. It was a really cool process because right away I learned how to do a for sale by owner. I kind of got to go through the process, and I learned that when you do a for sale by owner, you can negotiate things a lot more when it comes to closing costs. And a big part of that was because I didn't do this on a loan. Now, this is one of the mistakes I think I made, is early on, I think I was a little scared of leverage, and I had a lot of money in the bank, so I ended up purchasing the property for $73,000 in cash. Now, this locked up a lot of my money, and it's been hard for me to ever move that money out. But this is the reason I think it's kind of a mistake, is when you purchase a property in cash. This condo right here, for instance, is the one that I bought. The reason it's a bummer to buy it in cash is because I bought this for $73,000, which was a great deal. But since then, there have been condos the exact same size, probably just as clean or not quite as clean as ours, that have now sold for over $120,000. So you can see I've gained over $50,000 of value in this property. But had I only had $20,000 locked up in this property instead of $73,000, you can see how the return on that would have been astronomical. Now, it would have lowered my monthly cash flow, but even still, my actual return on that monthly cash flow would have been bigger. And the reason I use this as an example is when you purchase a property in cash, that locks up your money, and it's going to increase your cash flow, but lower your percentage of return with where interest rates are right now. And so by putting in less, let's say I would have bought this for $20,000, $25,000, I could have bought 3 or 4 other properties just like it that could have received that same appreciation. And so instead of sitting on $50,000 of appreciation over, 7 to 8 years, I would be sitting on, heck, $200,000 of appreciation on top of the consistent cash flow I would have gotten out of it. So that's the biggest mistake I think I made in this deal, is not purchasing it with leverage. Now, I'm in too far. I haven't really thought about refinancing it just because it's been an awesome deal and an awesome situation, but it definitely was a learning experience for me. I did buy it right. I bought it where rents have been able to increase. I bought it at a great deal in a great location, so we've gotten huge appreciation on it, but I've missed out on principal pay down and on taking advantage of a much larger return had I done the deal on leverage. I went and I managed this property all by myself early on, and that was another huge learning experience. Within the first 2 weeks of owning it, I got a call saying that the drain was plugged. So I came in, I opened up the drain. It was like a 2-hour ordeal for me to pull out this nasty clump of hair. A couple weeks later, I got a call that the sink was broken. So I came back, took apart the sink. I'm trying to figure it out. It just turned into this nightmare job. And I'm looking at the fact that I was making, $690 a month, I think is what I started renting it at. And I'm saying, well, if I'm making $690 a month, I've got $73,000 locked up in this property, and I'm working 4 or 5 hours a month on it or more. This sucks. This is like the worst paying job ever, and it locked up all my money in it. And so by reevaluating leverage and thinking about getting into a management company, this was a great learning experience for me to see that progression and say, hey, I don't want my investing to be a job. I want my investing to be something that's passive, that I can let go, that can make continual returns for me, so I'm not worried about it. When I did get that first check for $690, oh man, there is no better feeling than being in a place where you're getting a check coming in every single month, especially when you take the leap of then moving it over to a management company, because then you're stress-free, the check hits your bank account, and you don't have a care in the world. So I learned you gotta make sure you find a management company if you want it to be a true investment. You've gotta make sure that you're taking advantage of leverage so that you can get into more properties than just one that locks up your money, because there are a lot of people that don't have $73,000 to put into a property, and you shouldn't. I got very lucky with my sales job, and again, if that's something you're interested in, you can check that out at elitesummersales.com. I still work as a regional manager, and it opened up a world for me. Not only did I have a progression of starting with this property and then having it turn into over 60 units, but by starting in sales, I gained a skill set that gave me the ability to not only have the income, but the skill set to work great deals like this. So if you are interested, I'll put that link in the description. Now you've been able to see my first real buy and hold investment, and even though it had kind of a learning curve and I had some bumps along the way, I'm so grateful for this one dinky little property, because it gave me the courage to then jump into a duplex and a fourplex and an eightplex and all of the other properties I'm going to talk about in the future videos. So if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you push the like button, subscribe to the channel, because I would love nothing more than to be able to help you create a huge passive income for yourself. One other thing I wanted to make sure that I added in this video is, I know a lot of times when you start looking at properties, it's very easy to get discouraged, and I definitely felt that. I mean, I had been looking at properties for a long time before I finally got the guts to pull the trigger on this one. And so what I would tell you is, don't get discouraged, especially early on. You're gonna look at a lot more properties and get a lot less deals, because you're figuring out what you're looking for. You're figuring out what kind of deal you want to get into. You're figuring out your financing and all of these other things. So don't get stressed if you're not immediately finding that first deal, because remember, anyone that is invested in real estate, I would tell you, has been in a place where they looked at deals for a long time before they pulled the trigger. That's one more point I wanted to make sure I included in this video. You've got to recognize you're gonna have to spend a lot of time looking for deals, and it can be a pain while you're figuring out your financing and what a good deal is and all of those details. And so most good real estate investors had that experience of a long time before they got into their first deal. And if they didn't, they most likely bought a deal that wasn't great. And then they had a long, painful experience dealing with that not so great deal. So don't get discouraged. Keep your head up and know as you continue to look and learn, you're gonna find that deal.